Hello, and welcome to ΣիվիլΝեթ. I'm your host, Paul Vartan-Sukiasyan. Today, it's our great honor to have with us Nilakshi Saha Sinha, the ambassador of India to Armenia. Relations between our two countries are dynamic, and so it's great to have her here to discuss the many different areas of cooperation. So, Your Excellency, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, and namaskar.
Thank you. So, as I said, there's been dynamic growth in relations between our two countries over the past years, and that really coincides with your term. So you've seen a lot of it, up close and personal. Is there any reflections or things you'd like to say and tell our viewers about what's been going on between Armenia and India generally?
Well, actually, as you mentioned, I arrived here at the end of March in 2023. But the real uptick in our relations, we've always had very warm, very close relations right from the time that Armenia became independent. But I think from 2021, when our External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, visited in October that year, I think from then onwards, we really see an even more, deepening of the ties and diversifying also into new areas. And the reflections are that, the momentum which started before I arrived, in fact, almost a year and a half before I arrived. So when I arrived, really it was incumbent upon me to continue that work and to see how the relations could become more deep, more strengthened. And that's what I am attempting to do.
Well, what's just amazing about India is it's such a big country and it's becoming a leader in so many different sectors. So we're going to go through many of those sectors and how relations with Armenia have been impacted. So a big one of those is defense. We've dramatically expanded ties since 2021 in that, with India becoming one of Armenia's principal suppliers for defense. And so how would you describe the guiding principles of this partnership, and what priority does New Delhi give to Armenia within its broader regional policy?
Basically the guiding principle really would be to strengthen Armenia in the long run so that it can live and exist in peace and in security. And the underlying principle of everything that India does with our partner countries is always based on the requirements of those countries. So we listen to what our partner countries need, what they want, and accordingly we respond. And India responded, back in 2022 when there was this requirement. And we find that this cooperation today is very dynamic. It's not just military technical cooperation, but it's also the training that's imparted to Armenian armed forces. So we have training programs for them in the different defense institutions in India. So I think that is progressing fairly well.
Oh. Now, another big one, of course, is trade. Now, bilateral trade between India and Armenia was about $270 million last year, and that is far below, the potential of both of our economies, especially India. So, what steps are being taken to boost this two-way trade and investment?
Actually, the figures differ slightly. I think what you have quoted perhaps are from the Armenian statistics. But from the Indian statistics, which don't actually take into account the trade that is happening through third countries. And even then, for 2024-2025, we find that the bilateral trade stands at $315 million. But of course, as you mentioned, it's really below the potential which exists. So both our countries, the Armenian embassy in Delhi and we in Yerevan, we are constantly, we try to get businessmen together, and we do so by organizing business forums. We've already done 2 this year, one in March and one in May. And what we try to do is, in order that more businessmen business persons can participate, we do it in a hybrid format. So the one in March, we concentrated on the pharmaceutical sector because early in March, that is on the 10th, the foreign minister, Mr. Ararat Mirzoyan, was on a bilateral visit to India. And during that visit, there was an MOU signed between the drug controllers of the two countries. And so we wanted to kind of use that momentum. And along with the Ministry of Health of Armenia, we organized a business forum that concentrated specifically on the pharmaceutical sector. Given that, India is a world leader in this sector, we are called the pharmacy of the world. And you must know that, the vaccines under the WHO and Gavi, which is the, Alliance for Vaccination and Immunization, more than 60% of those vaccines worldwide are supplied by Indian pharmaceutical, industries. So we are a very big player when it comes to pharmaceuticals. So we are trying now to see how we can increase the exports of pharmaceutical products into Armenia, because that would be really a win-win situation, given that we have very good, world-class vaccines and medicines, and now we're coming up in medical equipment as well, and at a fraction of the cost. So I have often told the Ministry of Health and in my interactions with the Minister, the Deputy Minister of Health, that Armenia is ambitious in having a universal, health insurance, health coverage for its population. And if you want that to succeed, you would need Indian medicines and Indian vaccines. So both our governments are working on those areas, but not just pharmaceuticals. We look at other areas as well. There is a lot of trade happening through some of the Gulf countries, but that's not taken into account, those figures in the bilateral trade. So constantly we are trying to, get together business persons, and we find more and more there's an interest in Armenia, from Indian business persons. We get so many queries, about more than 50 in a week from Indian businessmen, and our team at the embassy, we respond to them, and then we find that some newer areas also coming up. So constantly, we're working on all those fronts to see how bilateral trade could increase.
Well, since you mentioned the pharmaceutical industry, as you said, India is famous for that, and pharmaceuticals in Armenia right now are quite expensive, whereas the ones from India and the generics could be much cheaper. But are there any artificial or regulatory barriers that have been kind of stopping this from happening so far? Like, what's holding us back from just going full throttle with Indian?
Oh, I think you mentioned it. There are some regulatory issues, and we are working with the Armenian government because, I think the government here realizes that good quality medicines, generics at, very reasonable prices, which would be beneficial for the people of Armenia. So there are regulatory issues on which both the governments are working.
Now, speaking of trade, Armenia has kind of been in the headlines a bit in this year when it comes to its geostrategic position. For years, it is still blockaded by Turkey and Azerbaijan on either side, and with Iran in the south, it's been almost kind of a dead end because of the way the neighbors have gone around it. However, now with this Trump road being proposed, Armenia could become a crossroads of peace, as Prime Minister Pashinyan refers to his plan. An important part of this plan as well, besides Armenia becoming more centrally located, more strategic, is, well, from India, they have the Chabahar port plan. Now, when it comes to the US, that's a bit controversial, but this could be really great for Armenia, going south through Iran and then on to India. So do you have anything to update us on that, or how Armenia could play a role in that plan?
I think Armenia is now manifesting its interest in using the Chabahar port. So, it gives it one more port in addition to the Bandar Abbas port that it usually uses. And the Chabahar port is a part of the INSTC, the International North-South Transport Corridor. So more and more we find, there was a visit by the Minister of Economy last year, the end of last year, to see the facilities. He was the Deputy Minister of Economy. So there is more and more interest, and I think more connectivity means more prosperity. means more exchanges. So, India is working, and we run the Chabahar port, the Indian company, India Ports Global Limited. We have now the license to run it for the next 10 years. And yes, there are issues with sanctions, but we've had a waiver for 6 months now. And so the Chabahar port is very important, and it gives Armenia one more kind of point of connectivity. And for India, the Chabahar port also enables us to get our goods to Afghanistan and onto Central Asia, and now we're also looking at using it for Armenia, and Armenia is also increasingly manifesting its interest.
Now, when it comes to ties and connectivity, a big one for people are flights, especially direct flights. I mean, I've talked to many people who have visited Armenia just because it ended up having a direct flight, and they said, "Oh, interesting place, I want to go there." Now, as relations get deeper and deeper with India, there is also interest from Indians to come to visit Armenia. I've actually met some out in the street, helped them find their hostel late at night one time when we were both going back. But anyway, the issue is where a few months ago I was talking to Eric in one of our podcasts about India relations, and we were saying we need direct flights to really fully take advantage of growing these relations. And at the time they said, finally we'll be having a direct flight to New Delhi in September, but I don't know if that's actually come to pass. And we've had many past experiences where they talked about it happening, but it didn't happen. Could you tell us about what's going on there, and why hasn't Armenia seized this moment yet, direct flights?
You're absolutely right. Direct flight between our two countries would be a game changer. And when we talk about trade, that would receive a huge boost in addition to tourism, of course, because there's a direct flight to Georgia, and it's like 7 days a week. So Indians who visit Georgia inevitably come to Armenia as well. But if we had a direct flight here, we would have more tourists. Already, I think the figures of last year for Indian tourists' arrivals would be around 45,000. So it's a good number, but it would really go up, exponentially if we had a direct flight. Now, there have been a few attempts. If you'd recall, 2 years ago, we had the Fly Arna whole episode. Then we had some announcements by Armenian Airlines, which said that they would start a flight, but it never materialized. And we also have the private airlines, the largest Indian private airlines, Indigo, which manifested interest. And that should happen. I think it's just a question of time. Earlier this year, because of different conflicts in the world, I think all the airlines suffered quite a lot of, they took the hit because a lot of airspaces were closed, and so they were rerouting and they had actually cancelled flights. So now that they've resumed their normal operations, and so I think for Indigo it's just a question of time. Armenia is definitely on their radar, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that hopefully in the coming year we should again hear from them, and that would really be great. I think initially their plan would be to have a Delhi-Yerevan flight, but I think I have interacted with them, and they're interested in the next phase to have Yerevan-Mumbai flight as well. And then the business persons of the two countries would really be connected.
That'd be amazing, because I've heard, for example, people that visit Georgia, they said since those flights have opened, there are tons of Indian tourists in Georgia in a way that you had not seen them before. And so that is the way to really help this people-to-people and business-to-business connections.
Absolutely.
One more thing that Armenia and India are both known for is their tech sector. India might be taking over even China and US's place by 2050. So where, or is there room, for smaller players like Armenia in India's wider technology plan?
Absolutely. I think really this is an area that is an area of strength for both the countries. For Armenia, you have a very dynamic, very niche, very good high-tech sector. IT in general is very well developed here. And one of the things that I have been attempting to do along with my team members at the embassy is to connect up our high-tech sector with that, the one here in Armenia. It's just that I think when it comes to Indian professionals or Indian companies, they tend to gravitate towards the English-speaking countries. So I think, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring it onto the map of the Indian high-tech sector. There are some, contacts happening, and some collaborations are kind of starting to take off. And we need to consolidate those because I think it's just a question of people not knowing really the bigger, the industry as a whole, not really knowing much about Armenia. So we've been attempting to do that. You have these wonderful tech events in the month of October, a series of them that happen. And we've had some Indian presence, but not commensurate with the strength of this industry. So yes, Indians tend to gravitate towards countries where, there's no language barrier. But that is not really something insurmountable. So efforts are on.
I know that there was just in the past year or so an Armenian-Indian Chamber of Commerce or business organization opened as well to help. And so we're seeing these early steps at least, and hopefully it can go further. So I think the everyday Armenian, whereas maybe in the past it was just maybe they loved Bollywood movies and that was their connection with Indians. But now, right in their backyard here in Yerevan, we see many Indians. Many of them are migrant workers, for example, coming here. But this community is being formed. And so, are they integrating or how's that been going? And what challenges and opportunities do you see for them?
The starting point is really, there's a lot of comfort between Indians and Armenians. I think Armenians are very warm towards Indians. We have, I think, that psychological edge, maybe because of decades of our movies being screened here. So yes, as you mentioned, there have been now an increase in Indian workers here in Armenia. They integrate very well because I think linguistically we are very gifted at picking up languages. So once that barrier falls, then they're able to mingle. We also have around 3,500 medical students here.
Yes, of course.
They're very well integrated, and that of course has been going on for many years. As far as the workers are concerned, yes, there are challenges, and we are working with the Armenian government in terms of, they come on the wrong category of visa. So they get a 21-day e-visa, and then after those 21 days, their status is not legal. So, they are vulnerable to all kinds of issues. And we have proposed to the government of Armenia a migration and mobility partnership agreement, because we would like migration flows to be within a certain framework. India has the capacity to provide all kinds of workers, whether highly skilled, skilled, semi-skilled, unskilled, but it has to be within a certain framework, so that the people who come to work here, their rights are fully taken care of and respected. So those are things that we are working on, and if we can have this agreement, then that would give it a framework. And I have to say that the government of Armenia is also working towards looking at their visa regime, because they don't have a category of a business visa or an employment visa, and those are the things that this government is currently working on, and that would also help.
And that would also probably attract some white-collar workers as well if they had more of a actual business visa. I didn't realize that they didn't have that category. And speaking of the medical students, when I was first living here over 10 years ago, we didn't have the workers like we do now, where you see them all around, but the medical students have been here for decades. And I remember going to performances and dances that they put on here in Yerevan. And so that's been a big part of our or at least a part, maybe our viewers at home in diaspora or America don't realize what a long-standing connection Armenia and the Indian medical students have had. So that's another example of our connections. So kind of to lead in from that, India is often described as a civilizational state. So how is that vision, reflected in India's cultural presence here, the cultural diplomacy, and their efforts in Armenia?
As I mentioned a short while ago, I think we're very fortunate in the sense that we are already present in the homes and hearts of the Armenians, thanks to our films, thanks to Bollywood. But yes, you're right. We are a civilization of more than 5,000 years, and we, here as the embassy, we are constantly organizing cultural events. So whether it's our film festivals. So since I arrived, we'll actually be having a film festival at the end of this week. So from the 5th to the 7th of December, we are having a festival of contemporary films of India. But we've done, this would be the fourth, film festival. This would be the fifth, actually. So I started, getting film festivals on Satyajit Ray, the maestro. So got some of his movies. I'm a Bengali, so obviously there is an affinity to the movies of, Mr. Ray. And then we did a series of film festivals, playing on the nostalgia a bit. Films of Raj Kapoor, films of Mithun Chakravarti, Jimmy, and they were huge successes. So we've had them, the one on Mithun Chakravarti, everyone knows him here as Jimmy. It's a huge success. It was in March this year. And now we are starting our series of film festivals on contemporary Indian cinema. And the one that's happening at the end of this week would be showcasing some movies from contemporary filmmakers. But not just that, yoga has taken off in such a big way. So we celebrate the International Day of Yoga every year on the 21st of June.
I've seen you there.
We do that in a very big way, and we do it at a very iconic venue. We do it across the world, across India, across geographies from the Arctic to the Antarctic. And so we've done it at very iconic venues. We've done it at Freedom Square, we've done it at the Cascade, and so yoga is very popular here. Then Hindi, we have Armenian teachers who teach Hindi, so we encourage them as well.
So finally, we've gone over so many different sectors and ways for potential growth between our two countries. And do you have any message you'd like to convey to just the Armenian public out there?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to just thank the people of Armenia for being so warm, to everyone, but particularly to Indians. I think we've always been welcomed, with open arms and hearts by all Armenians, including, the workers who are here, the students who are here, and this has always happened. So, a sense of gratitude for that, but also from the people of India to the people of Armenia, we would like to see you, live in peace, and we would like to see you prosper more and develop and really find your place, in the Comity of Nations.
Hope so as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Your Excellency.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity.
And thank you for joining CivilNet.